What's up, everyone? This week we are transitioning into the topic of meaningfulness and the meaning of life. I am going to make you tired of hearing this, but this is a topic that one could spend an entire course on. And in fact, there's a course in the community college catalog called Philosophy 215, The Meaning of Life. That was my baby. I actually created the course, pushed it through the curriculum, etc. But because it's not a guaranteed transfer course, sadly, we don't offer it very often. But I've taught it a few times, and every time I've taught it, I've started with Leo Tolstoy and a book called A Confession. You've probably heard of Leo Tolstoy, famous Russian novelist of the 1800s, wrote really long books like War and Peace and Anna Karenina, and essentially he'd achieved the Russian version of the American dream. So Tolstoy's living the Russian dream. He's rich, he's famous, he's popular, and he's miserable. And he's asking questions like, what am I doing and why am I doing it? What should I do next? Publish another book? Okay, and then what? Make more money and what? Buy more shit I don't need and then what? Publish another book and what's the point? And who cares? And why am I embarking on this journey? To what end? And really the question that Tolstoy was wrestling with was his own mortality and the inevitability of his own death. And he gave a rather apt analogy for this that I gave you kind of the comic version for, obviously in Philosophical Combat. But Tolstoy says, life is like this. You're being chased by a beast, so you jump into an empty well. Problem is, at the bottom of the well, there's a dragon that's waiting to eat you. So you grab onto a branch that's growing inside of the well, and you're just kind of hanging there. Extra problem, there's two mice, black and white, nibbling away at the branch, and it's only a matter of time until you fall to your death. Only saving grace, if it's much of a saving grace, is that there's some honey on one of the leaves of the branch, and you could lick it if you chose. Tolstoy says this is actually the situation that we're all in. It's just a metaphor. And given that metaphor, you've got four options. So your first option number one, ignorance, right? Ignorance is bliss. Pretend you're not in the well. Pretend there is no dragon. In other words, pretend that you are immortal. Pretend that you'll never die. And many of us do live our lives this way. We don't really have a healthy relationship with death, right? We just sort of pretend it's not going to happen, put it off, and just focus on now. And Tolstoy says the problem is that, again, once ignorance is shattered, once you realize you're in the predicament, it's very hard to force your way back into blissful. Option number two, according to Tolstoy, is hedonism. Just lick the honey, enjoy it as much as you possibly can. In other words, find the pleasures in life, right, and embrace them and dive fully into them. Tolstoy thought that this was an inadequate solution because once you realize you're in the well, the honey doesn't taste sweet anymore. You're on your own for whether or not you think he shortchanges all the joys in life by calling them honey and saying they don't taste sweet. But we're playing Tolstoy's game right now, so there you have it. Option number three, let go of the branch, just let the dragon eat you, essentially just die. This is obviously a pretty dissatisfying solution and one that Tolstoy wasn't taking himself. It ends the game, right? It's game over. So we need something better than that. Option four, just clinging to the branch, trying to live as long as possible, fearing death, but just kind of keeping your grip on life. It's also a very anxious and unpleasant place to be. This is where Tolstoy admitted that he was when he started pondering these questions. But Tolstoy found secret option number five, which he called faith. So Tolstoy was he was an academic guy, and he hung around a lot of academics. And what he said is, academics are kind of miserable. And I can attest to some of this, they overanalyze, they compartmentalize, they think too much, and they end up unhappy, just criticizing things based on their own conceptions and their own boxes that they've drawn. But the simple people, as he called them, the ones who just, get shit done and then have faith that there's an afterlife, those people seem genuinely happy. And so Tolstoy chose to join those people. As a, astute thinker, Tolstoy didn't think that you could logically arrive at a conclusion that there is a blissful afterlife, but he took it on faith and said that got him out of the well. So I don't know, if we put a wall at the bottom of the well so the dragon can't get to you and you're in the well forever, is that better or is that worse? That really depends on you and what you think about these things. Some would say that life is meaningless if it's eternal, and some would say that this existence is meaningless if it's just a means to some other existence. But one can argue these things a million different ways. That's the out that Tolstoy took anyway. And just to share a little story, this is one of those examples where I say don't take philosophy home with you, but I had a student do just that. So he told a tale where he went to work. He was a server at a restaurant, and one of his coworkers was crying, and so he approached her and asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Oh, my boyfriend just broke up with me," or something. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, everything's meaningless, so that's meaningless too." Not comforting, right? Apparently she started crying more, and she said, "Well, then what do I do?" And he said, "Well, you got 4 options." So don't peddle Tolstoy's 4 options. And in fact, I think even thinking about this in terms of 5 options is a limitation. There is a secret option number 6, and some of you may already be anticipating it as we've been doing some Eastern philosophy throughout the semester. But if you're not quite sure what secret option number 6 might be, just hang on tight and we'll get there in another week or so. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.